Hey everyone, and welcome to the Hair Healer Podcast. I'm your host, Colleen, the Hair Healer. I invite you to embark with me upon a journey of exchanging energy and creating conversations with my clients as we discuss our journeys through life. So come with me and let's see where today's episode takes us. Good morning, everyone, and happy Monday. I know a lot has changed in our country over the last 48, 72 hours. I am in a suburb of Philadelphia, so very much so here. Everything has changed. As of Tuesday, we are at a total lockdown. Pretty much, to say the least. You can have grocery stores open, pharmacies, and gas stations. That's about it. So I'll be out of the salon for 2 weeks. That's a little scary. A little feared up because I'm commission based. So if I'm not working, I'm not getting paid. So right now, more than ever, do I have to practice my faith in something greater than myself to know that life has always worked out no matter what it's thrown me. And that is true. And how do I stay in those moments or go back to those moments? Because trust me, it's scary and my head wants to run fear and it will run fear. But first, I think about every horrible moment of my life, all the crazy stuff I've done, the drug addiction, everything. And when I thought my world was ending, eventually it goes back up and it shifts back up. So I remember that this is all going to be okay. And also something else is not to try to give in to the fear. That can be very hard, I know. But it's not going to make anything better, okay? We have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. The virus could stop, literally dead stop tomorrow and be over. So we have no idea. So all we can do is look at what we have in this moment, right? We have our family, we have our friends, we have maybe art projects or other projects, business projects we've needed time to work on. Instead of sitting there and worrying and suffering and whatever, just try to focus on as much positive as you can and focus on working on yourself. Take this break. Hopefully this will be the last break in the next 100 years or so, century, maybe 2 centuries, because this is very scary. But take this time and just try to breathe, okay? Remind yourself, listen to some positive affirmations, positive frequencies. There's frequencies out there to eliminate fear, but we are all going to be okay. And again, I'm praying and sending healing vibes for everyone who is infected so far or has family members. It is scary. So I have like a backload of Hair Healer podcast episodes in case I wasn't planning for a pandemic, but in case, vacation or something like that. So hopefully this will be going on for the next couple weeks and we'll only be in a quarantine for 2 weeks. So today, though, we have the spring equinox coming up. That's some positive things to work on right now. You have no excuses now to not have a spring equinox kind of write down manifest list of where you want your next 6 months to look. But now I'm going to tell you about our guest, who I'm very excited about. Francine Bonjour is her name. She's from France, and she has become a very spiritual mentor for me. I met her at one of the sweat lodge ceremonies that I attend. And we talk about what happened after that, but we met, exchanged numbers, and then didn't talk for 2 years until like the universe kind of intervened and we met up again. And I go to her women's circles and she just really has helped so much open my spirit, elevate my spirit. I'm really, really blessed to have known her. She is an incredible woman, an incredible story. She's a fighter. She is a soul healer. She is everything. And so she also is going to tell us a lot about the spring equinox and some rituals and stuff to do for that. So listen to this episode, try to get in a positive mindset for the next hour. I hope this helps you, helps take away a little bit of the fear right now. And I love you all. And don't forget, feel free to reach out to me if you need to talk. My Instagram is @thehairhealer1111. And my email is thehairhealer1111@yahoo.com, which eventually I need to change to my podcast, I'm sure. Add that in there. But nevertheless, here we go. Let's go vibe with Francine Bonjour. Hey guys, here we are with Francine Bonjour. And I know you guys have probably already watched our video. If not, go back because she shares a lot about rituals and new moon rituals. And so go back to February 22nd or 23rd today?
23rd.
23rd. So go back on my Instagram and make sure you watch that. Now, I have a confession I didn't tell Francine is yesterday when she reminded me, I forgot that we were recording today. And let me tell you how perfect the universe works out. In my head, okay, remember we originally said a Sunday in March? And I never look at my calendar. I should. So in my head, I sort of had that, and then yesterday, I said, oh my God, it is tomorrow. I totally forgot. But guess what? Every Sunday I have my kids. I didn't have my kids this morning because they stayed at their dad's an extra night, which again, never really happens. They stayed at their dad's an extra night because I went out last night for my soon-to-be sister-in-law's like wedding dress dinner or something like that. And it fell on the new moon, which I didn't even realize when we originally booked it. So like, after like that 1 second, I was like, oh, it is tomorrow. I'm like, how funny is the universe works out perfectly always, even for me. I totally forgot. And yet here it was, like the entire morning is just perfect for this. See?
That's great.
It always works out. I think I've had to like get used to that. I don't know, probably the universe is really looking out for me because I'm always all over the place. You know, I actually forgot that I have to do the new moon. Well, I'm going to do the new moon sweat lodge until about yesterday morning.
Yeah, so. That's so funny. Which is funny also because that's how we met. Through sweat lodge.
Yes, it was really our story about meeting it was a women's only maybe 2 years ago now?
Yeah, at least
probably.
2 years
and
ago.
We just like instantly connected and you were looking for a spiritual hairstylist and I gave her my number and then we just never connected.
Yeah.
It was part of the universe's plan. And then when I was going through a hard time with my husband and I was separated for a little bit, she called me and asked me like, oh, hey, I'm doing this retreat, Colleen. And I'm like, I still had her number saved, but I was like, I don't think that this is right, Colleen.
Right. I made a mistake.
You made a mistake.
Well, it's not. It's funny because my phone just mixed up numbers.
Wow.
Which never happened before because the other Colleen I thought I was calling, I did have phone conversation with her before and I never had a problem.
So that just gave me chills, right? Because you were so meant to be at such a pivotal point. And then she was like, oh, well, you know, since I have you on the phone, essentially, well, I have this going on. And it was just like, oh my God, my soul needs this. And how did you accidentally call me? But it wasn't an accident.
Right.
It never is.
Right. And then the tattoo.
And then, And then right then again, we had, maybe you can share she said, I'm doing this amazing,
ritual tattoo. I had a woman.
I'll screw it all up.
I had a woman who came to my little studio, home studio, to do ritual tattoo. And it's something I wanted to do forever. And kind of the same story. I met her very, by accident, let's say. And so she came and then you were interested. And I said, well, I have that coming up if that's something you would like to do.
It was amazing.
Yeah,
I felt the transformation in there with her. And you had said, I think maybe after that, or maybe once at one of your women's circles that you like sort of look at it as a portal.
Yeah.
I started to do that.
Yeah.
What got you to explain that? Because now I like hold on to it and look at it as like an energy portal.
Yeah. Well, when her name is Malia. And when I talked with Malia about what she was doing and I wanted to know if it was aligned with what I wanted to bring in my space, we talked about that, like how her work is a message from the universe that you bring into your skin, right? In your body, and how you can access something different about who you are through that. And it's totally aligned with the work I do. And I personally feel I'm not the same person since I had this tattoo. Who I was before is not the same than who I am now. Yeah,
wow. Totally. That gave me chills too.
Yeah.
I feel the exact same way. And what's her Instagram? So if
Malia Luna.
Luna, yes. She's on both of our Instagrams too. If you want to check out her work, she's really amazing. And it was like, again, the universe at a very transformative time in the middle of this crazy thing. You came, then she came, and it felt transformed afterward, right? So Francine works with as simple, we'll say, as awareness, right? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I am trained in an awareness method, somatic awareness, called the Feldenkrais Method, which is named after the man who created it. And it's a practice of slowing down and discovering more of who we are through our body and through movement. It's very different from anything else like yoga or Pilates or, all these practices because we focus on learning how to sense ourselves. And I always say that our body is where everything happens, right? We have the same body, we have the same skeleton since we were born.
Wow, yeah.
And everything that has happened to you has happened in your body. So there are many layers of exploration possible through our body. And what I like with this method is that we learn to be non-judgmental with ourselves, which I think is very, very useful and needed.
So useful. That should be taught in like elementary, high school.
Yeah, right. Everything. Yeah. And so we explore. It's really coming with a mindset of, let's see what I'm doing. Let's see what I am made of. Let's see how I sense myself when I think I cannot make this movement, or I have this belief about myself. We really touch on self-image and our whole system of belief a lot with that. So that's a big part of what I do. And then I also have a earth-based spirituality practice, and I do workshops and women's circles.
The best women's circles ever. They're so good. I love it. So what got you into it? What's the start of your spiritual journey? Were you born into it, or was it like it came after a series of a rough upbringing, like a lot of people it seems to be?
Both, all of that. Well, when I was a child, I was very interested in all kind of mystic spiritual experiences. Same. I had a lot of books and how to read hands and astrology and all that stuff. And then I don't know, it's such a long, life story is such made of so many things. Then as a young adult, I had years of struggle, health-wise, and I wore a brace.
Wow.
Yeah.
For what, your back?
Yeah, for my back, I had scoliosis.
Oh, wow.
And that's how I discovered the method I am now working with. Yeah.
Wow.
And but on a spiritual side, I studied with a woman in France, and we were a small group, and kind of developing that connection with nature and everything that is out there and we don't see, and all that spiritual connection. And then I moved to the US 13 years ago. And
wow, 13 years ago.
Yeah. And then I had another teacher who is from Native American lineage, and I learned a lot with her. And and then over the last, I would say 5 years, I kind of brought together, my own traditions, because I'm very careful and aware to not take from a tradition that is not mine.
Interesting. How do you like, guess what I'm saying, learn from that and create something and make it your own and not take it from
right.
that? Well,
I see what resonates, and I love to peel the layers and see what's at the roots of things, right? Yeah. I love to go deeper than what we just see in the, superficial layers. And I think I automatically ask myself, okay, what is it that I like in this ceremony or ritual that comes from another culture? What does it do to me? Like, what is it that really pulls on my heart and makes me open and connected? And then it's like cooking, right? I take a recipe. I never follow a recipe. I will always end up feeling that, this will be good with that. And maybe a little less of this, but a little more of that. And so it's like that. And I end up doing my thing.
Well, everything I've ever had that you made, especially like your drinks, right? Are amazing. So you do all that without looking at a recipe, just sort of comes to you. Yeah.
And I do a lot of things with intention.
I was going to say, so when we have these women's circles and usually you bring a beverage, you make it sometimes, do you make that with intention? Like, how do you choose? You've made so many crazy things I've never heard of, and I loved all of them. I did.
So I let it come to me. When I do a circle or a workshop, like for a week before, it's like entering in that specific space, right? And I sing the names to people who come do something with me all the time, every time.
Like the people that are coming, sing their names? Wow.
Yeah. So if you register for one of my things, whatever it is, I have your name on a little paper, and during the week I sing your names as a prayer, as a connection, as telling the universe, this person is really to commit to something special, right?
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Why do you sing it and not say it?
Well, I've been taught singing as a prayer.
I love that.
And it's a neutral way, instead of praying that, I wish you to have this, or I wish this to happen to you. I have no idea what is good for you, right?
Yeah.
I really don't know.
And usually we don't know either.
And we don't
that person
know. Right,
doesn't know.
Right. And I think we both know that sometimes we have really difficult things happening in our life. And in the moment, we're like, oh my gosh, I don't want that to happen to me. And then a few years later, you're like, wow, that was so transformative.
It always, I feel
right?
like is.
I do too. Yeah.
And that's what I feel like helps me like kind of go through the storm is like, just guess what? Eventually, there's another
There's
side.
something to learn.
Don't lose that hope.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's that same concept. Like, I don't want to pray and to wish someone something specific because maybe what they're going through is going to be very beneficial and healing for them.
Yeah.
So I sing their name. It's like a neutral state and it's who they are. It's the essence of who they are, their name.
Wow. That's true. And I'm practicing that. And you probably with your kids or work on that is learning that my children, especially as my kids get older, they have their own will, their own path, their own things that they need to learn. And how do you like not want to swoop in every kind of like emotional thing and like just, I will save you. I will save you. I will save you. But that's not good for life.
Yeah.
Do you just accept it? Like, how do you?
Yeah,
I'm working on that right now.
What I do with my daughters is I talk with them and I say, look, this is happening. I know you feel that. It's, like validation of what they feel is so important. Like,
yeah.
If we had that, we would have less years of therapy in our pockets.
I think that I have so many,
So validating what they feel is real. It's like when you see a kid who fall down in the street and the mom says, oh, it's okay. You're not hurt. You're fine. No, the kid is not fine.
And he's little and he might be actually hurt.
Right.
Sometimes I'm guilty of that, actually. You're fine, get up.
Right. And even if it's not like a big physical hurt, he might have been scared. He feels lonely right now. He feels, all of that. These feelings are real. Yeah. So I would say, oh, yeah, that was whatever. That was hurtful or that was scary or you didn't see that step or, whatever. And give them 2 minutes, right? Instead of wanting to rush and go through whatever.
That's definitely a good, like, conscious parenting tip. And I had a couple weeks, maybe it's like a couple months ago. I don't know. Time just all runs together. But I remember it was like, the awareness came to me. My older son's in the back seat and he's crying hysterically because he like lost this birthday pen it was someone else's birthday and they gave him this pen. And at first I'm like, oh my God, you really got to be kidding me. But then I was like, wait, like this actually does mean a lot to him. Like in those moments, like we think they're just having these annoying reactions, but like when we're telling them to stop, we're teaching them to not process their emotions. And so I was like, I'm very sorry that happened to you, and he was actually fine then. And once I said like, instead of being like, stop it, blah, 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 he was like, okay.
Because I think what we can come back to the singing after that, but what we are teaching our kids is their emotions are valid and they have value when they feel something.
Yeah.
Which is really important because otherwise I think you grow up with trying to repress your emotion, which is not good for anyone.
No.
And also you have an expectation of what you should be and who you should be. And the more you have that and the more you go away from your own potential of who you really are. And I think these little gesture we do with our kids really can go a long way for that.
Oh, yeah. And hopefully like much less years of therapy and unwinding of stuff. Because I think I was seeing that too. I'm like the beginning of a millennial. And I was like, we were, I think the biggest, I don't know how it is now, but up until then, like we grew up with like the most divorced parents, right? The 90s, late 80s, that's when like it all of a sudden started to take off. And that was still like, no therapy, you're fine. Like kids, I always hear it. Oh, or when I'd go through stuff and I'd feel guilty. Oh, kids they'll be fine. They rebound. But they might rebound, but yet they're all this suppressed shit that comes out later on in life.
Right.
When you start acting out in these ways.
And as a parent, I think it's a constant balance between what you are responsible for, which, taking responsibility is always good. But at the same time, also letting your kids have their life. You cannot, protect them from everything. And that's why even if you have a difficult situation, if you're going through divorce, there's no blame, right?
Yeah.
But telling the children, you know what? It didn't work out.
Didn't work out.
Daddy and I, we loved each other, and then things changed, and it's not nobody's fault. That's the way it is, and we'll still be there for you.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And that's what I did with my children. And now, even though it wasn't a very good ending with my kid's father, now we're like best friends.
Right.
And you can, I think so many people have this idea that like when something ends, like you have to stay in that. Just like people would say to me, that's so weird, Colleen. I can't believe that you hang out with him or your husband and you guys go on vacation together. I'm like, all right, whatever. I like being weird, And like, who's to say that's wrong? But so many people are scared to like, okay, now that we're not in this romantic relationship, like to keep the relationship going.
Right.
In a different way.
It's a different relationship.
Yeah. And we don't just have to end it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's transformation.
It's transformation. That's what it's about. My brother has this funny theory. I don't know if he still has it, but I remember as a kid, he was 8 years older, and he would say, people, maybe by the time, I guess, 2000, he started saying this, people get divorced, he said, because when marriage first came about, everyone only lived to 40.
Right.
Sure, you know what I mean? And now we're living to 90, 100, and then like...
It's very different.
And we're supposed to have one person to... carry all those needs for entire life, which to me sounds kind of impossible.
Yeah.
In a way, right?
Yeah.
We can get back to your singing. What was your singing? I just in my head.
And it kind of goes with that, because when you sing somebody's name, again, you don't put these expectations, these judgment, these projection, because we do projection all the time.
All the time.
And you just let the person be who they are. So when I have a circle or when I do a workshop, I sing people's name. And when I prepare these drinks that you love so much,
I'm drinking my name.
Special, right? Like I stir it, like literally I have my big pot and I stir it and I sing people's name.
Wow.
And so all the prayers go into the drink.
Wow. Can I say I love too? I don't know if it's just like I love that you do bring it down in a real pot. It just and you stir it. There's something very like soothing and relaxing about that.
Yeah. And it's a way of being together. Right.
Wow. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So what do you think now looking back in your life, right? Where you are, what was the hardest time in your life that you didn't think that it was going to go anywhere, your life's going to be ruined, and then it ends up being this beautiful transformation?
There's more than one.
I know, right? One a decade, maybe five a decade.
Yeah, right. So when I was a teenager, when I was in elementary school, I was diagnosed with scoliosis, which is a back spine problem. And I had a lot of therapeutic pool, swimming session, and PT, physical therapy. And then I had a plaster cast from all my torso.
How old were you?
14 to
and that's like the worst
13
time?
to 16.
And that's the worst time.
It is, yeah.
Oh
Middle school, first year and a half of high school, yeah.
Wow.
And then I had a brace for a couple years from my hips all the way to under my chin.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was really not fun. It was bad.
Wow.
And that left me with,
Could they not do it when you were younger?
No, because you have to do it during puberty, actually. It's very timed, actually. You are monitored to know when and how, and yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So I had no connection with my body. I had no awareness. My self-image was not great. And of course, I had a kind of a dysfunctional family, so there was a lot of...
a little cherry on top.
Right, little cherry on top, yes. So that was not fun. And I carried the wounding from that period of my life all through my 20s, really.
You did?
Yeah. And
how would you act out? How did you act?
A lot of alcohol.
Really?
Yeah.
Drowning.
A lot of champagne, right? You got to do it the French way.
I was going to say, that's a fancy.
Yeah. Bad relationships. And when I say bad relationships, it's a relationship that really did not help me grow or evolve
came from maybe
or
a more
be happy.
Place?
Right, totally. Yeah. And a poor self-image and all my conditioning culturally and from my family around what it means to be a woman.
Wow.
Right. So all of that, all of that came through, the way I was living. And then now when I look at it, I learned a lot, from that. And I can really see, I can identify, okay, this happened because my own self-image or my belief system was that I was not worthy of somebody who will treat me nicely.
Wow.
So I had a collection of egocentric.
Yeah. Lined up.
Right. Yeah. And narcissistic, people. And I really don't say that also as judgment to them, because
they don't know
it's the same. And they acted out from a wounded place. Yeah. Right. But it's interesting now to see for me how all of that shaped my life, my relationships, what I was doing, and all of that.
I feel like if you clearly, when you're talking, like if you didn't have that experience, you probably wouldn't be able to do what you do now with your awareness.
For sure.
Like, that's why that happened, right? So then you can help all these other people.
Right. Yeah, that's right. And the way I came to the work I do now with my somatic awareness practice is that because I had such no connection to my body, and my movements were like the way I was moving was telling that disconnection. I met one of my first martial art teachers who was taking his training in the Feldenkrais Method.
How old were you when you got into martial arts? Did you get into it to try to connect with your body?
Well, it's another thing that happens a lot to me. Like I get into something, it just
happens.
The
idea gets to your head.
Yeah, it just comes into my life. It's like suddenly it's everywhere. So I'm like, okay, I'll give it a try. and then things unfold from that. So from that martial art start, when I was in my mid-20s, I met my first teacher in the Feldenkrais Method. And that
through martial arts?
Yeah, he was one of my first martial art teacher, and he was finishing his training.
Wow.
And he said to me, I have something that might help you. And I started going to classes and having sessions with him. And that really changed my whole life.
Wow.
And then through the martial art, I met my husband, who's American.
Where was this?
That was in Spain through an international retreat. And everything lined up in my life for me to be able to move to the US.
How far after since you met him?
Well, we met in July and I moved in December.
I love it. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I love it.
And and now that's, where I am now would not have happened without all of these very synchronistic and surprising events, right? Because if you would have told me that I will do martial art, I would say, no, thank you. If you have told me that I will live in the US, I would say, never.
Never. Wow.
And now I'm here and I teach.
Do you love it here?
Yeah, I like it here. Yeah.
Do you miss Europe?
Not that much. I'm happy I have the life that I want to have here. Yeah. And truth to be said, I would not be able to be who I am now if I would have stayed in France.
You wouldn't have.
No, because the conditioning for me was too strong. Like I had to reinvent myself. I moved in the US. I knew one person in the whole country.
Where were they?
My husband. Oh, my future husband, right? I moved because...
Where'd you move to?
To San Francisco.
Okay.
Which is not a bad place to move.
I mean, listen, I think the first time, that's a pretty good place.
Yeah. But I knew nobody. My English was so bad.
Was it bad?
It was so bad. When I think of it, I'm like, oh my God. How do you even talk?
Could your husband speak French?
No.
Oh, fun.
No. Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting. So to reinvent myself in a new language, in a new culture, in a new country, I had to start over. And that has been very instrumental for me to decide who I wanted to be, right? Do I want to stay the old Francine who, is not that confident about herself and has a lot of heartbreaks and a lot of passivity.
Yeah.
Or do I want to be somebody who I feel I am, but I didn't know how to do that?
How to unveil it.
Right.
So how'd you unveil it when you came to San Francisco?
Well, being a mother has helped me a lot.
I feel the same way. Isn't that crazy?
That has been so potent. Yeah.
Did it just like, okay, because you have daughters, like
Yeah,
I need to now be this woman to show them?
Yeah, being a model and with integrity with myself, right? And I really feel that. Here's a little story for you.
Yes, we love the stories on here.
So we had home birth for both of them.
Amazing.
And for the first one, we were late from the date. So our midwife said, well, you should go to the hospital and check the baby is okay, like 5 days late, and that there's enough amniotic fluid and everything. So I'm at the hospital, and I think at that point it's like 8 days after the official due date, but I'm fine. Everybody is healthy. Everything is good. And I start to have contraction at the hospital when they are checking me.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, oh, geez, I want to go home.
Yeah.
And they don't want me to go.
They don't want you to go home.
And I called my husband and I said, okay, it's going to happen tonight. It was a Friday. And he comes eventually to the hospital, and there's a doctor there, and she says, can I check your cervix? And so check how much I am dilated. And at that moment, because I didn't want her to touch me, I just wanted to go home and have my natural home birth. and nobody has checked anything so far. And I was in that hospital room, and I sat on the bed, and I felt like I had thousands of women behind me.
Wow.
And I said, no. And it was like, I felt like it was the first time I said no in my life.
Wow.
And it might have been like with that intention and that strength. And I was like, wow, like I'm not alone here. I have a lot of support and guidance spiritually and in my ancestors and, just as a woman who is about to give birth. And that was very instrumental for me.
So what happened?
Then she was like,
at home.
Yeah. Then she said, well, she was not used to somebody saying no like that. But then she just sent us home. And then at 5 a.m., that was in the afternoon. And at 5 a.m., I gave birth to Elia on our bed.
Wow. On the bed?
Yeah.
Did you want to do a water birth?
We had water, but I was too comfortable there. It was so great, though.
Was it?
Talk about Pisces season, right? And she's right on at 0 degree Pisces Aries.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and for the second one was born in water.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you fight the pain off? I had epidurals for both mine.
I don't know. The water helps.
Does the water help?
It's really great because it's warm and you're floating and you can move around and it feels great. Wow. And I don't know, I didn't feel, it's painful, the birth giving process.
Yeah.
But I think I had, naturally the good balance of hormones on both sides, and once the baby is there, it's gone. All the pain is gone.
Yeah.
There's no more.
And then
you're really flushed with all the, the happy hormones and you go on.
And then, wow, that is a beautiful story. That's going to be a beautiful story for your girls.
Yeah.
To tell.
They know that story. Elia knows that story. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And I think right there, as we know, we pass on these kind of generational things. I think in that movie, you gave her so much power too. In a good way, like to go through the world.
Right. Yeah.
And all those ancestors just put it in there. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
That's cool.
So that's really, that was a big point in that kind of reclaiming my power.
Wow. Look at you. Well, let's get into the spring equinox, some rituals. Can you tell us, for people that don't know, what is the spiritual significance behind the astrology behind the spring equinox?
Okay. So we come from winter, which is typically a season of slowing down, of darkness, and we come to growth, right? Wow. In the spring. I garden a lot, and that's how I get a lot of my spiritual
through being in the ground
concepts from observing nature and really observing, like sitting outside or inside and looking at my window and seeing what is different. How does the season change my environment, where I live, the land I live in, and I live on, and so the spring, it's like the seeds are in the soil, right?
Yeah.
What nourishes the soil is compost and all this kind of decay. So I love to do something around release just before the spring, and release something, a habit, a relationship, a way of thinking, a belief about yourself that you know is not true and is ready to go, and do it very intentionally with a ritual, a little ceremony, an altar, and ask for that to be transformed in a way that it nourishes what is about to grow.
Wow.
And so it's this whole, like you compost and you let nature do its job and nourish the soil, and then the soil will grow the seeds, right?
Wow. So what is, because I have a lot of people listening that, which is great because I'm bringing awareness to that are like, I don't know what the hell what those two are talking about, but what is, how could people that say, I want to do an altar? How do I start that? What is that? Instantly some people are like Catholic, like where the body of Christ is up there. No, you know what I mean? Like, how do what a ritual can be anything, or an altar can be anything, right? Something that speaks to you.
Yeah. So some of my tattoos are an altar.
Really?
They have really been done like that. Like this is your altar.
I never thought about that, but every tattoo I've gotten has always been during usually a very pivotal moment in my life.
Right. And so every ritual or altar, the essence of it is that it has a meaning and an intention. So clear intention and a meaning that is deep for you, something that really resonates to where you're at the moment. It's like your blueprint for making an altar or a ritual. So something anyone can do at home, for example, if you want to do an altar around your ancestors, you can have pictures of your ancestors. If you don't know, or if you don't have, I have no pictures of my ancestors, you can write the names on papers and you put it in a little place.
I love
your
that.
altar doesn't have to be a big, sophisticated, huge thing. It can be, I like to have very dedicated space to it. So it can be a shelf, for example, or a table you have, or it can be in a little plate.
Wow.
Just to have good boundaries. Good boundaries is a good practice to have.
Good boundaries.
Right.
So you put in there to make that intention to learn to have boundaries. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Wow.
And to have, again, to dedicate a special space for that. And then you can dedicate a special time. And every morning before you go to work, or every night before you go to bed, you sit at your altar and you communicate with it.
Do you sit every day? What do you do?
Not every day. Well, for me at this point...
Sometimes I do it in my bed.
In my bed. I do that maybe not every night, but almost every night. In my bed, I come from a place of gratitude and I give thanks. And then I just it's not really meditate in the conventional way we talk about meditation, like emptying your mind and all of that. What I do is I get in dialogue with myself. And with everything that wants to come to me. And it's a practice, so the more you do it, and the more ease you get from it.
Wow.
Yeah, and you're, if you want to come at your altar, you can, it doesn't have to be a long time, right? You stay within something that is comfortable. It's like a discussion. If you discuss with somebody, if you have a dialogue, a conversation with someone, and you're like, oh my gosh, I want to get out of here, I can't stand this person, you're not going to get anything from it.
Right.
If you sit with someone with, intentionally and you like what's going on and it makes you feel good, then you feel that, okay, we are creating something together, right? Like what we're doing right now, actually.
It's a beautiful thing.
And it feels like you're alive.
Yes.
And for me, that's the sign. Everything you do, if it brings you this feeling of aliveness, then you're good.
Wow.
That you're connected with spirit.
Well,
right?
Doing what I do and fascinating, and people, my entire life, their stories, everything fascinates me. And since starting this, like not building it, but once I started doing my interviews, every day I feel like, wow, I'm leaving doing the best. I mean, I'm so happy. I'm like living the ADH dream. We're just sitting and talking. I could talk for hours.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's because it nourishes you.
Yes.
And in exchange, it nourishes the person because you engage, you have this intention of being together, you're curious, you're aware, and that's the job I do in a different setting.
That's all you need.
Yeah.
I get a lot of questions of like, Colleen, how do you, like I'm miserable in my job, right? And I don't know where to go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I say kind of just put that intention out there, but do you have anything else to like, okay, how can they find what they're even about, what they should do? How do you set that intention?
Well, I'm very interested in staying real.
Yes. So, yes.
Like my type of living my spirituality, it's not love and rainbow and light and unicorn. Like this doesn't work for me. Like I talk about grief,
which is
and
why
loss.
I love you, because it is so like, I appreciate people that are authentic and like, look, sometimes the world sucks.
Yeah, it does. Sometimes life is just terrible.
Yeah.
Right. And you just want to not be in the situation you're in.
You want to run away.
Yeah. Right. But I think for me, I look at what can I want to take my part of the responsibility, and what can I do differently, just in the way I am in myself.
Yeah.
And if you have a job that doesn't nourish you or doesn't make you feel good and alive, maybe you need something outside of your job that you can find that. Right.
Yeah.
It's like planting seeds. You just start where it's easy first. If you start where it's going to be a lot of effort and work and pushing, and this is gonna be hell.
Yeah.
So start where it feels accessible, available to you right there. And maybe it will be dancing in the kitchen every night when you cook.
I love that.
I do that a lot.
Do you really?
Oh, yeah.
Do you booty drop? How do you do it? Or just...
I just dance around. Sometimes I
like
jump. Sometimes I see
like
anything.
I can see it very angelic, kind of floating around the kitchen. I see it. I love it.
I don't know. Yeah, sometimes it's not that angelic. But yeah, something like find that connection to this aliveness somewhere. And it's usually not where you have the struggle, where that place of constraint and limitation is. It's not there.
And you're probably not going to find it in another person, a relationship.
Yeah, I would not suggest that as a sustainable way to find it.
Which is what I think was always a pattern of mine. And I know a pattern of, what do you think, 80% of people?
Yeah.
Because that was like old programming is sort of like, no, don't look inside yourself. Look, like growing up, it's like job, marry, other person, kids, not like job and then have a journey through yourself.
Right. And it's not always easy to look at yourself and this business of awareness, like once you become aware, you're not just aware of the nice and easy things, you become aware of all the shitty stuff you do.
Shitty stuff you do and the shitty things that made you who you are in a lot of ways, or your habits
habits and your way of thinking and what triggers you. But that is where the gold is when you can look at something that triggers you and you say, okay, I'm really aggravated by this situation. This drives me crazy. This person said this and, all of that. If you look at it, and again, you look at the layers. So you peel the layer, you shed around it. And you look at what does it mean for me? Like, why does this thing, a phrase you heard or something you read or something you've seen, why does it touch me so much? Like, what part of me feels unseen or unheard or wounded or abandoned? Where does that resonate? And that's where you start your work.
Yeah, that's where I start a lot of my work. And I noticed to bring awareness is like when I act out, right? When I act out in many different ways, obviously, but when the anger comes and I start feeling like, oh, hell no, I want to F some shit up. Do you know what I mean? Or fight or something like that. Like, that's that little girl that comes out. Right. And like, I think when so many people fight all over the world, that's their little child. Like, They don't know any better. You've just gone your whole life like that's your emotional reactions to things.
Yeah.
And no one's ever changed it.
Right.
So when I feel it coming on, I'm like, oh, my therapist always says, is that your CEO you're bringing, Colleen, to the table? Or is that wounded little girl, Colleen?
Yeah.
And what do you feel when like wounded little Francine comes out?
Yeah, of course. And I have a whole ritual with her.
What's that?
And I have
a whole one.
Yeah. Well, when you do that inner child healing work, it's like what we were talking with our own children. You want to acknowledge. So what I do is I imagine myself sitting next to her or holding her hands or hugging her, whatever she needs at the time. And I say, yeah, that really sucks. Yes, you're sad. Yeah, your parents didn't act healthy or, whatever, or that was unfair. And again, acknowledging and saying, well, I'm here for you, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to make a whole story or to explain that much. It's really that heart connection, right?
Yeah.
And that's what you need as a child. You need to know, to sense that somebody is there for you.
Yeah. I think I did something similar just a couple weeks ago. I put a picture of myself up.
Yeah.
You saw that at my first Holy Communion, where I know that because I was always like trying to, be the funny person in the room, where I was like, clearly I remember my mom telling me to say thank you to everyone, but I think I started singing or rapping or something, but I was so happy in that moment. And I think when I look at that, it reminds me of how to go back to that true self, not the wounded Colleen, but the happy Colleen, and gain so much power. Because one of the things that makes me happy is not only helping people heal, but make them laugh, take them out of that situation.
Right.
So I just keep her there, which it's near a different altar I have, my money altar, my abundance altar, abundance, many different things. I put her right there.
Yeah.
Especially because she's part of the goal, my dream says of where I want to get going.
Right. And that's a great altar to have. And if you're starting with altar and ritual, I would say give yourself a specific time frame to do it. You can do a week, right? Because if you start thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to have an altar for this and an altar for that, and every day I'll have to sit at my altar, it's just overwhelming.
And then you won't do it at all.
Right. And then you won't do it, and then you will feel bad about it, and you will blame yourself, and then you go back to the cycle.
Yeah.
So I would suggest that you start 1 week. And the spring equinox is a great, the cycles we have in nature have very clear points, right? The equinoxes and the solstices. You have your birthday every year. That is a clear date. So I
celebrate the entire month for my birthday.
Yeah, I love that. That's great.
I do. I love it.
Yeah. So you can do that. You can take 1 week. And if you want to do inner child healing or reconciliation, you can have pictures of you or something you had from your childhood that you liked. When I did mine, because I have nothing, I have one book from my childhood. That's it.
Wow.
But I put a doll that I made, that I actually made for my daughter on my altar, because I really like that doll, and I wish I had a doll like that when I was little. And so you put things that are, again, meaningful to you. And every day you can sit with yourself and go and hug your little one, and it can be when you were a baby. It can be when you were 7, when you were 12, 15.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Last week.
Right? Last week.
Oh, that when I was acting out on a baby. Well, we're almost at 50 minutes, getting to the end of our show. But before we end, I always ask these 3 questions. Take your time answering them. That's why I always start at the end. So the first question is, it's perfect because we were just talking about, what would you tell your little inner child, little Francine right now? If she was here, what would you go back, if anything, and tell her?
I will tell her that what she knows about herself is true.
Wow. Like the stuff deep down she really believes.
Yeah,
the good stuff.
Like what she knows, what she thinks she can be, and how she thinks she's connected to the whole living world. It's true.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, what is the best piece of advice that anyone has ever given you? I don't like to warn people for these questions, so I like to know what comes up into their mind first.
The best piece of advice.
What comes to me?
I have a few. Oh, go ahead.
No, well, you're thinking, I was just going to say what comes to me instantly is my dad before he was dying of cancer. And he always said, Colleen, life goes on. You got to know that life is going to go on when I die. Nothing's going to stop. You just have to keep on living it.
That's great.
Yeah. I was just jumping in while you were thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say it's funny because I could not find anything, and now I have like 5 things that come to my mind.
Say them all.
And it's interesting because it comes from a woman who have again just pop up in my life at different times, like out of nowhere, stayed for a while, and now I look back and I'm like, wow, it's like I had fairy grandmothers coming, you know?
Yeah.
I remember a teacher in middle school when I had my brace and all of that. And she said to me, I have to translate from the French saying.
Say it in French.
C'est très bien d'avoir plusieurs cordes à ton arc.
Oh, really? That's what she said?
That's what she said. Isn't it amazing?
I can't believe it.
So she was saying to me, you have more than one skill. You have different skills. Like the image in that French saying is you have more than one string to your bow.
Wow.
Right?
More than, what did she mean?
Well, she meant that don't limit yourself. Don't get stuck with one belief about yourself, or don't get stuck because right now life is hard and you have all this, stuff going on. Like there's much more available.
Wow.
So yeah. And then I had another teacher, a woman with who I studied earth medicine for a while, and I remember that she said very early on, if it's not a yes, it's a no. And I live by that. Like if I have to make a decision, if I wonder if I go to this retreat or event or workshop or whatever, if I wonder and if I'm not like, yes, I'm going, means no. I'm
love
not.
That.
Because we're going to create reasons like, oh yeah, but it will be good for this person if I go, or it would make this person happy, or maybe it would help, whatever, my job, or, whatever.
Yeah.
But no, if your heart didn't say, yes, I want to be there first, then it's a no. So I like that.
I love that.
Yeah.
I got to remember that, because there's a lot of times where I'm like, and then you're right. You come up with other people but your spirit just doesn't want to do it.
Yeah.
Wow. That's good.
Yeah.
So,
go ahead. Yeah. And one last one.
No, I love it.
From my therapist a few years ago. And I love this one because it really touches on that kind of be real, way of being spiritual. And she said to me, things are going to be bad again. And it was true, right? So it's like, this is great, but be aware.
We just learn how to ride it, right?
Yes, yeah. And that's what we do. And that's what for me, that's what awareness is for, is that you get tools. You have tools in yourself. It's not from something outside of yourself. You develop tools in yourself to be able to face the next thing that comes to you, right? That's what we need.
That's what we need.
Yeah.
Soul tools.
Yeah.
I call it.
Yeah.
What do you want to leave our listening audience right now? I mean, I feel like you've left like 1,000 different things, but what's the final message that you have for people listening right now?
I would say talk to each other.
Yeah.
And share your stories, right? If you're going through something, just say it. Say it to a community that can hear you, to people who are not going to rob you from your experience and are not going to make your experience theirs as well, which it might be tricky to find.
Yeah.
But sharing our stories makes us realize that we all have very common threads,
many.
weaved all around us, and that we can really connect to each other, and reconnecting to ourselves will lead to reconnecting to each other and reconnecting to the earth and to nature. So I would say, use your voice.
Wow. Use your voice. Be authentic. I know I say this a bunch of times, but one of the reasons, exactly what you said, that I wanted to even do this is to show the world, right, that everyone is connected, and maybe we all look different or our issues look different, but they're all really the same. They're all tied into the same connection.
Yeah.
Right? Wow. This has been such an amazing episode. I'm really excited. So where can our listening audience find you?
So my website is francinebonjour.com.
Love it.
And I am on Instagram at Francine Bonjour, and also on Facebook. And that's where you can find me. And I do in-person workshops and circles and things, and online. Body awareness and spiritual, earth-based spiritual awareness, both in person and online. So
wow. Guys, seriously, check her out. You will not be disappointed. And if you're in the Philly local area and you're looking, right, if you're a woman and you're looking to expand your circle, have more like-minded people, or you're in the beginning of a spiritual journey of any kind, please check her out. She was definitely a pivotal, we could say we met, it's weird to think like 2 years ago we met at that sweat lodge, not even knowing that we would be here together 2-3 years later.
That's for sure.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah. I love looking back at those connections when you first, never would I thought the universe said you two in a couple of years would meet and you would be sitting here, you would have your podcast, and you'd be sitting here with her.
Right?
I just got chills
doing great. That. Me too.
Yeah, it's cool. So thank you everyone for listening. I hope this helps you, and I hope you guys have a wonderful spring equinox. Remember, it's time to you're growing now. You did so much death. It's time to grow and grow in the light and the sun and believe in yourself. I hope this finds you and is a good beginning Mindset Monday for everyone. And please, if you have any questions, please email me, thehairhealer1111@yahoo.com, or please find me on Instagram at thehairhealer1111. I hope everyone has a fabulous day. Love you all. Goodbye.